Hi, I'm Scott L. Miller. This is Sam IT. In a lot of these discussions, we talk about the importance of not using sales resources and VARs and vendors inappropriately. But we often leave out how we should engage them. So much so that people often approach me and ask why I feel that vendors should be avoided so much. And that's never what I'm saying. Proper engagement is not the same as not engaging. Vendors and VARs and salespeople are all very important parts of the IT ecosystem and really any industrial ecosystem. And they have important roles to play and they can be great partners, but we have to engage them in a logical, rational, useful way that puts us on the path towards mutual success. We have to think about what's important for them and make us a valuable customer to them, or potentially valuable customer. And we need to think about how they will provide value to us. As the customer, we are the ones creating engagement. Of course, salespeople may attempt to create engagements where you've not met yet because they want to get your business. And to some degree, you could argue that the salespeople in those contexts are creating an engagement. But in reality, they're not. They're just letting you know that they want you to engage. As the customer, all engagements with vendors, VARs, and salespeople are at your discretion completely, and you control how that relationship exists. By doing so, and doing so properly, you can create great engagements and have salespeople, VARs, and vendors that are important partners for you that help you create good IT ecosystems for your business. So, how do we approach this? One, we don't engage sales resources to get general information. That is not their role. They will do so. They will do all kinds of things that you ask of them because you, as the customer, drive the engagement. They will generally do what you ask. They will just do it within the context of their goals. This is why you need to make sure that what you engage them for matches your goals, because they will make sure that it matches their goals. So you as the customer are the only person who can ensure that you have mutually beneficial goals. And this requires some empathy. You need to think about the people you're engaging, what their goals are likely to be, what your goals are, and how they come together. You cannot expect anyone else to do this. There's no one else who has the power to do this, no one else has the insight to do this, and no one else has a reason to do this. Your salesperson has their own goals. It is not their job to think about yours. That's your job. We talk about this a bit if you go onto smbitjournal.com. There are several articles there that I've written, including one on the understanding the difference between a buyer's agent and a seller's agent, and that's something that we'll cover in another video as well, but well worth reading. I think it's one of the most important things that you can understand when engaging someone. You are part of the buyer's ecosystem, and they are part of the seller's ecosystem. You have to make sure you understand who's on which side of that line. That doesn't mean you can't be on the same team. It just means that you play different roles, and if you're not careful, you will become opposing teams. That's not what you want to have happen, but that's how most people engage salespeople and create an adversarial relationship. But the salesperson doesn't control that. They can't help it if you've created a situation where they must be adversarial. Okay, so when engaging a salesperson for IT, the first thing is you need to understand what it is you're looking for very carefully before you engage them. For example, you're looking for storage for your servers. You need very specific things, and you know exactly what you need. For example, you know you need a SAN, you know it needs to be high availability, you know that NAS features don't matter, you know a whole bunch of things about capacity and performance and connections. You know you're going to be using fiber channel, it's going to be FC16, whatever. You have those details. Those are your job to come up with as the IT person. If you can't come up with those, it's your job to engage consultants or engage an MSP that is not reselling you something, who's there to help guide you to find that answer. One way or another, your IT ecosystem has to determine what its needs are, or what its desires are, or what its goals are. When you engage your vendor, you should be able to take that information to them and let them then come back with important information that only your vendor, VAR, or reseller could have, which includes how much it's going to cost, what kind of discounts they'll be able to get you, what kind of special requirements are needed for their hardware, what different hardware or software offerings they have, because maybe they have more than one. Maybe they have something new coming that you should wait for, or at least consider waiting for. Maybe they have old stock that they're willing to give you a discount on because something new is coming. Maybe they have a month-end deal and they're able to work with you. Maybe they can ship some things really fast. So your reseller is really important for getting you information about the vendor and its scenario as it currently stands. They are also important for getting you pricing, for getting you delivery dates, for getting you specific requirements. And then, using that information from one or more salespeople or vendors, you can then, as the IT people, take your requirements, ensure that the things that they have offered you meet those requirements, and determine what things you want to acquire, if any, right? You get the information from them. The decision still remains with you. You should never be looking at vendors as the people who provide the answers to anything of significance. They do have some answers about some very specific information that is just unique to themselves, but they don't have information to help you make your big decisions. They are very much a last mile kind of assistance, right? You've got your IT, you've got your business that makes the really, really high level decisions, such as we need more capacity for the coming year because we're going to be growing. We need to focus on end user efficiency because our end users are not being as efficient as we would like them to be. That's the business. IT takes those business goals and transforms them into actual actionable technology solutions, right? So, our end users are not efficient enough, we're going to get them bigger monitors and we're going to get them faster desktops and we're going to update their operating system and we're going to look into new applications that may help meet their needs. Great. This is the IT strategy for meeting the business needs. The IT department always keeps those business needs in focus when making these decisions because that's their goals and these are their actionables, their proximates. When wanting to then enact those proximates, in many cases, IT will then need to go to vendors to get hardware, software, or assistance to do so. That's where you have to know exactly what you're doing, what you're looking for, and engage the right people to meet those needs. At which point, your salespeople and their ecosystems become highly valuable to you. They are now part of your team because you've given them only the information, only the scope to act in your interest. They may still, of course, try to sell you things you don't need. They may try to lead you towards things that are higher margin rather than lower margin. But by controlling as much as possible what their scope is to offer things to you, you control that almost completely, and it becomes much more visible when they try to steer you. It also gives you the opportunity to talk to multiple vendors because in most cases they will offer similar things. So for example, if you were buying desktops, you might talk to Hewlett-Packard, you might talk to Dell, you might talk to Acer, you might talk to Asus, and you can take all those, and it's very hard for one of them to try to play you by offering you something that is drastically overpriced or underperforms or whatever, because you have very similar things to compare against. It's not always the case, but it generally is. What you can't let happen, and often does, is the case that we talk about all the time, where we don't know what our architecture is going to be. We let our vendors design it for us. If you do that and compare against different vendors, you will actually find that they generally all give the same answers because they're all motivated by the same profits and they all have the same general margins. So because you let them make the IT decisions, it may come back and seem like they validated each other when in fact it's the opposite that's happening. They're showing just how much you let them take advantage of you, but it's hard to see if you're not already aware of that. So very, very, very important that the IT level decisions of this is how we're going to meet our goals are made by the IT team, by the buyer side, and only the very last now, which product best meets that exact technical spec, or as close as possible, is available from a vendor, and how much will it cost me, when will I get it, what kind of support can I get. And then of course it's fine to engage vendors, resellers, and those kinds of ecosystem partners if you need specific support, specific expertise. on things that you don't have internally. There's nothing wrong with IT reaching out to outside people to get assistance on those things, but it's important to remember that you probably don't want to get those from resellers when possible, but if you do, you want to limit their scope as much as possible to make sure that they are supporting a product and have a clearly defined scope and are not in a position to use that as a selling platform to try to change your decisions, to influence other things, to spread into other areas where they're not providing that expertise. That's where you want to be careful of resellers, because they have an interest in getting into all those areas because they want to start reselling you things in those areas as well. If you bring them in because you like the vendor and you want to use them in another spot, that's great. Nothing wrong with that at all. Single vendor for everything, that can make a lot of sense. But you don't want them being the one driving those decisions. You want to avoid that at all costs. And a good vendor relationship will often respect that and understand that you know what you're doing and they will be there to help you. Vendors understand, though, that their bread and butter is companies that don't do that and are looking for them to provide free advice, because it makes their jobs easy so they can come in and make big money while you do very little. That's what we want to avoid, because that means we're simply taking the business, sidestepping their trust, and handing their bank accounts directly over to the vendor, with our job to protect them being skipped in the middle. So there's great ways to engage your vendors. There's great ways to engage your VARs and your salespeople. We just need to be aware of what it is. We need to be controlling the engagement. We need to make sure that we are empathizing with their needs. We need to make sure that we control their scope and that we have made all of our critical decisions, all of our IT level decisions made prior to bringing them in. They should be making, in reality, bench level decisions. Very, very pure technical decisions about what is available. They should not be deciding what is the best answer for you. They should be deciding what is an optional answer for you that they provide. So that's important. They're not IT. If they're doing anything that should be classified as IT, we probably want to stop. Something's wrong, at least during a sales phase. But if they're simply providing technical information about what's in stock, how much it costs, and what it can technically do, and allowing us to then look at their range of answers, whether it's one product or 100, and choosing from it what ones best meet our needs when we compare it to their prices and options and deliverabilities and so forth, that's how the engagement should look. We don't want them in a position where they're making decisions for us. Thanks for joining me. I know that this is a big topic that we talk about all the time, and it's difficult to understand exactly how we should be engaging people in different roles in our sales and support ecosystems. I hope this was helpful. Lots of questions, I'm sure, coming below. Remember to like and subscribe, and thank you for joining me. And if you want to sponsor us, as always, you can sponsor us on Patreon.